Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I guess we'll just begin with our opening remarks, myself and my co-chair, Minister here. To begin, I just want to thank all of you for joining us here, ministers and my leadership from the Métis Nation. It's wonderful to be here for our leaders meeting for the Permanent Bilateral Mechanism. This is an incredible opportunity for us to meet and review progress that we have made over the last number of months. I want to also take time to thank our elder, Vita, who's going to start us off in a good way in a few moments here. For those of you who don't know me who are joining us here today, my name is Cassidy Caron and I am the president of the Métis National Council. The Métis National Council has been the recognized national and international voice for the Métis Nation since 1983. I'm joined here this evening with leadership from across the Métis Nation homeland, with presidents from Métis Nation British Columbia, the Ottawa Métis government in Alberta, Métis Nation Saskatchewan, and the Métis Nation of Ontario. And the Métis National Council receives its mandate and direction from these democratically elected leadership of these four rights-bearing Métis governments who represent Métis citizens within their provinces. I also want to take a special moment to welcome President Anandasangaree to her first Permanent Bilateral Mechanism Leaders Meeting. The first ever Ottawa Métis government election this past fall marked a significant milestone in the Métis Nation's transition towards self-government, and we extend our congratulations to all of their newly elected representatives. The Métis have always been a self-determined people with a strong tradition of self-government since the Métis Nation's inception. The Métis Nation has been organizing, resisting, and advocating for our rights since our ancestors, under the leadership of Louis Riel, established the first Métis provisional government in Manitoba and later in Saskatchewan. Our meeting here today aligns well with the beginning of the winter 2024 parliamentary session, and we look forward to a lot of progress that will be made this session, including the swift passage of Bill C-53, to give legal effect to Métis self-government recognition and implementation agreements. Canada's recognition of the Métis Nation's right to self-government is long overdue. The Métis National Council and its governing members remain committed to working with Canada on a nation-to-nation, government-to-government basis. And this work includes working together in good faith to uphold the spirit and interest of the 2017 Canada Métis-Nation Accord and the Canada Métis-Nation Permanent Bilateral Mechanism. We have been concerned with some lack of progress made in these past years towards our joint PBM commitments. And despite repeated commitments made by the Prime Minister, Cabinet, and federal officials to enter into funded sub-accords on identified priority policy areas, we have not reached any agreements since 2019. This lack of progress has real consequences, and it is to the detriment of the Métis Nation as a whole, our Métis governments, and our Métis citizens across the homeland. Too often, the Métis Nation has been left behind by the Government of Canada. Just over 7 years ago, the Daniels decision affirmed that Canada holds the same fiduciary duty to Métis as it does to Inuit and our First Nations kin. Despite this, the Métis Nation is facing barriers across many jurisdictional areas, including health, education, emergency management, and economic development. And we have to take this time to restore the permanent bilateral mechanism on a nation-to-nation, government-to-government basis. The MNC and our governing members are seeking a firm commitment from the Government of Canada to reset the permanent bilateral mechanism, and this includes exploring avenues to really institutionalize this process, the permanent bilateral mechanism, to find different ways, including legislation, to bind parties as a means to honor the Crown's solemn commitments to the Métis Nation. We hope that through a recommitment to the permanent bilateral mechanism, we will be able to come together and find acceptable language for the Métis Nation principles of co-development today, because until now, the inclusion of things like cabinet confidence have been identified as a significant challenge for the Government of Canada to approve the co-development principles, but I look forward to the conversation that we're going to have today and hopefully see through the endorsement of these co-development principles. The importance of these co-development principles cannot be understated as they guide the relationship between Canada and the Métis Nation and are integral to the recognition of our self-government. We remain committed to developing and operationalizing the co-development principles and look forward to Canada upholding their commitments to do the same. Together, we have proven that the PBM can be an effective avenue to advance the needs, priorities, and interests of the Métis Nation and the Government of Canada. Between 2017 and 2019, the Government of Canada and the Métis Nation, represented by the MNC and our governing members, entered into 7 sub-accords across policy areas ranging from housing to early learning and childcare and economic development. We have shown trust in the permanent bilateral process. In its early years, it has really truly worked for the Métis Nation. So we look forward to getting back to work today and hopefully restoring the permanent bilateral mechanism into a working table that works for Canada and works for the Métis Nation. So I look forward to the conversation today. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, President Caron. Tanzi, hello and bonjour. I'm pleased to be here with all of you today on the traditional unceded lands of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people, and I'm joined here by my cabinet colleagues, the Honorable Patty Haidu, Minister of Indigenous Services, Dan Vandal, Minister of Northern Affairs, Mark Holland, Minister of Health, and Anita Anand, Minister of the President of the Treasury Board, and we will joined as well with Arif Varani, Minister of Justice, as well as Francois-Philippe Champagne, who is the Minister of Industry. I would like to thank Elder Westlake for welcoming us in a few minutes and starting us off in a good way. But I'd also like to take a moment to thank all the leaders who are here today in Ottawa. It seems like you're here very frequently, more so than usual, and it is such a pleasure to see you all once again. J'aimerais également prendre le temps de remercier tous les chefs qui ont fait le chemin jusqu'à Ottawa. Je suis heureux de voir autant de visages familiers. Je me réjouis d'avance de discussions que nous aurons aujourd'hui. I'm honored to have this opportunity to co-chair this important meeting alongside President Caron. And I want to welcome Deputy Minister Valerie Gideon, who will be here in her capacity as Deputy Minister for the first time. I know she's been to many of the PBMs, but I want to welcome her, as well as Associate Deputy Minister Rob Wright, who just joined the department as well. So thank you both and welcome. Together, we're committed to continue to make progress on our joint priorities to make life better for Métis as outlined in Canada Métis-Nation Accord. As a Minister of Crown-Indigenous Relations, I'm committed to continuing to build a strong and productive relationship with the Métis National Council and the Presidents by supporting your vision for a stronger, brighter future for Métis and walking the path of reconciliation. I've had the opportunity to meet all of you in your respective regions, and it's been a pleasure to learn more about the work that you do. I want to take a moment to thank you for your dedication in sharing your vision and priorities this past year, and we have made a lot of progress indeed. I think of Bill C-53, which is almost going through committee as we speak, as an example of your years of advocacy delivering results for your people. Self-determination must be at the heart of everything that we do. There are a range of priorities on the agenda today, including justice, economic development, education, and health. I'm confident that today's discussion will establish a productive path forward and help create solutions that uniquely respond to Métis needs. I make this commitment to you today. Advancing the co-development principles will be key to guiding the relationship between Canada and the Métis Nation going forward. The relationship based on the premise that although our government structures are different, they're equally weighted and equally valid. A relationship based in good faith. There are challenging issues facing Métis, and that it's through the work that we will do together today and ongoing at this table that we can advance real change. Il nous reste encore beaucoup de travail à accomplir. Et je me réjouis déjà en ma qualité de partenaire fiable et actif, que ce soit aujourd'hui dans le futur. There's a lot of hard work ahead. I look forward to doing that work as an active partner here today and into the future. Let's get to it. Merci, thank you, merci.
So with that, we're just going to take a quick break and ask the media to leave before we get underway with the formal agenda.